Coming up in the next 30 minutes, Cabinet approves 2025 budget set to be presented in Parliament on Tuesday, March 11. More as there are strong indications of expenditure cuts and moves to rationalize the current tax structure, including value-added tax.
When on Tuesday he unveils the details of his budget, you will find that we have kept faith with the people of Ghana regarding the specific promises we made in the 120-day social contract.
We shall be having a conversation on that with an economist. Also in this bulletin, Cabinet gives blessings for the construction of a second gas processing plant to augment the country's energy security while minimizing shortfalls in the energy sector.
Cabinet has approved that in partnership and in conjunction with the Finance Ministry, we take immediate steps to construct a second gas processing plant.
While government maintains there will be no load shedding, we'll be discussing these issues and many others shortly with an energy expert. Plus, Chamber of Aquaculture Ghana laments low budgetary allocation to the sector, blaming the situation on high import of fish.
It appears the sector that is doing very well is receiving less resources. And we think that it's time to increase budget allocation to the aquaculture sector.
We've got details of this and more lined up for you. Please stay. Grateful you could stay on. This is Business Life with me, Pius Kojobaka, and looking at our stories. Cabinet has given its approval to the 2025 budget that will be presented by Finance Minister Dr. Kasiala Tuforsen to Parliament next Tuesday, March 11. This was after a special cabinet meeting was held this morning, chaired by President John Mahama at the Jubilee House. Now, speaking at a news conference, spokesperson for the President, Felix Kwasi-Fosu, says the budget will focus on dealing with current challenges facing the economy.
In terms of the 120-day social contract that President Mahama entered into with the people of Ghana, the Finance Minister has clearly indicated that we are on course to meeting those promises. So when on Tuesday he unveils the details of his budget, you will find that we have kept faith with the people of Ghana regarding the specific promises we made in the 120-day social contract. That is what I can say for now. In terms of managing the currency, yes, the Finance Minister will highlight measures, both within the medium and long term, aimed at addressing the fundamental weaknesses within our economy, one of which is rapid currency depreciation. And in concert with development partners and other stakeholders within the economy, appropriate responses will be prescribed for addressing this perennial challenge of currency depreciation.
But which areas in the 2025 budget dominated discussion this morning in the cabinet meeting? Of course, what should we expect? Joy Business's George Yafe has joined me in studio, and of course, following up on that subject, and joins me in studio for a quick conversation on the back of this. George, so quickly tell us which broad areas are we looking at?
I mean, in terms of the broader areas, and perhaps whatever that we are talking about now was what we picked up before this cabinet meeting. And basically, what will happen in this meeting is that there are instances where cabinet might shoot down on a policy. There are instances where cabinet is also worried about the political cost of certain actions. So their approval or their blessings given to this document is based on the fact that there have been some additions and subtractions. But going into the presentation before the cabinet meeting, there were strong indications that indeed they were going to be reviewing the expenditure for the year, and that could involve in some cuts. Where are they going to cut? We understand that there have been some direction to the various ministries about cutting non-essential spending. So those spending that does not seem that important for the year, maybe it has to be put on the banner right now. And also when it comes to capital expenditure as well, there'll be some reviews in that area. We don't know how steep that cut will be. Don't forget that there's been cutting the number of ministers as well. And that could also be factored indirectly into total compensation for the public sector as well. So we'll be seeing some revision in those areas. How deep those cuts will be, we are yet to get the fine details, because it is after this briefing that you can see that, yes, the minister is going this way. But before that, things were bound to change in terms of the expenditure direction for this government in 2025. and 25.
And I know we'll pretty soon speak to economist Professor Patrick Isuming on that subject as well. But quickly, of what impact will this have when you talk about the expenditure on the economy largely?
I mean, that is what I'm saying, that there are some, and you'll be talking to an economist to give us more details on that one. But also, the concern is that how should these cuts be carried out so you don't have the economy? Because a targeted spending in some critical areas could also stimulate growth as well. When it comes to the area of revenue as well, there's going to be some strong push to rationalize the tax system as we go in terms of to ensure that they are more efficient, especially looking at VAT as well. And that's what we're going to see the minister also outline details on the fact that, yes, they are going to press ahead with these tax cuts, namely the betting, the COVID-19 levy, and government believes that they are going to be heavy on compliance. And that could make up for the about 12 billion Ghana cedis gap that these tax cuts are going to create in the budget for this year.
Grateful, George, for joining me in studio for that breakdown for us. But let's get more understanding on this as we've been joined by economist Professor Patrick Isuming. Thanks so much, sir, for agreeing to speak to us on Business Live. Thankfully, Cabinet has given its blessings. We understand that the government hopes to press ahead with some expenditure cuts. But how should this be done to ensure that it does not hurt the economy largely?
Good evening, Pius, and good evening to viewers. Thanks for having me. I think that expenditure, some kind of expenditure rationalization is necessary. Now, if you look at between 2023 and 2024, there was a substantial growth in government expenditures. And based on what was presented in the 2024 budget, we are supposed to see some additional substantial increment. So in one sense, even if government decided to freeze the 2025 expenditure at the 2024 level, that would still be a substantial reduction.
So
now,
all right,
I think that there are, you have to take it line by line. Mostly when we contemplate expenditure cuts, there's always a fear that the capital expenditure that will suffer the most, because a lot of them are non-discretionary. Employee compensation, interest rates, which are the biggest items. Then you come to government consumption of goods and services. So, but I think there's room to cut all these lines, with the exception of the interest payment, and find space. Already, as George mentioned, the government has decided to reduce the number of ministers. There are suggestions that there will be a reduction in the number of appointees at the offices of the president. I think that's also good.
Yeah.
But remember that the government has already negotiated a 10% increment for public sector workers, which is lower than over 20% that was given last year. Now, if you look at the fact that between 2024 and 2025, the expenditure on compensation was supposed to increase by 15%. So if you were to apply that across board, assuming there was, there were the same number of government employees to be paid, that will give you some reduction. Then you have to factor in the fact that the government is planning to reduce its size. So all of those will bring savings.
All right, let's talk about revenue mobilization, because it's, of course, a great challenge here in the country when we talk about, boosting our revenue potentials. But what should the approach be in the 2025 budget, you would say?
Well, I think the government has made it clear in its campaign that it's going to remove some taxes. I am extremely supportive of removing the e-levy. I don't know whether the government will go ahead and remove the COVID-19 levy and then also the betting tax. But I still feel that there's room to remove those taxes and still find ways to plug the hole. So there's been a lot of talk about tax rationalization of the tax system. I suspect that will include removing some of the VAT exemptions and then also making it more uniform. At the moment, there's too much discrepancy, different segments applying different rates, and of course, so I think all that rationalization, if you simplify the system and remove a lot of the exemptions, I think that will help. The finance minister during the vetting made a clear point that he is not very supportive of the exemptions. So I think that is good. And then there's still room, even within VAT, we are not even collecting 60% of our potential. So if you're able to improve the enforcement and the collection, that is enough to bring us more than enough savings to make up for any expenditure, any revenue losses from those taxes. Then you have to think about whatever expenditure rationalization and how much savings will bring us.
I truly appreciate your time, Professor Patrick Isume, speaking to us here on Business Life. Of course, we shall come to you subsequently when the budget is read for more clarifications and analysis. Grateful. Let's stay a while longer on the 2025 budget because economist Dr. Ishmael Yamson is pushing the Finance Minister, Dr. Kasiela Tuforsen, to make fiscal discipline a major priority. Dr. Yamson argued that this is one of the surest ways to deal with the current challenges facing the economy.
Easier centered than Doc?
No. The president has set the tone by reducing the number of ministers and deputy ministers to 60 from 100 and something. That's a big leap. That's a big step. What that says is that it can be done. So the finance minister, his priority must be fiscal discipline. The moment you establish fiscal discipline, the monetary policy will help the macro stability faster. And I am very, very confident. I am very confident that Dr. Ato Kaslihe is determined to do just that. I know, and he knows, that the pressure will not evaporate tomorrow. Because everybody who has a bad road is looking for a better road. Everybody who doesn't have a water is looking for water. But you see, Ghanaians are very patient people. If we can demonstrate to them that we are making progress, that the road that we abandoned, we are bringing back and we are reconstructing them, continuing. If a hospital was abandoned, being built, Ghanaians can see it. But the most important thing is that we need fiscal discipline.
How easy is it, Doc, a party that came into office and has made lots of promises and the push to reset and getting things done and all the rest? Some would say that it would be difficult. The reality is that they cannot do this in terms of the fiscal discipline.
At least they have 4 years. If they can't do it all, they must demonstrate visibly that they are laying the foundation and they are on track.
You're still watching Business Life. We have more for you after this break. Hello again, welcome back to Business Life. Cabinet has given its blessings for the construction of a second gas processing plant to augment the country's energy security while minimizing shortfalls in the energy sector. Addressing journalists at the Jubilee House, Minister for Energy and Green Transition, John Jinapor, maintained there will be no load shedding as steps are being taken to enhance efficient and reliable power supply.
Cabinet has approved that in partnership and in conjunction with the Finance Ministry, we take immediate steps to construct a second gas processing plant. This gas processing plant would augment the shortfall and increase supply security. Today, let me put on record that we are not shedding load. And so the demand by the minority and some people that we publish a load shedding timetable is mute. When you are not shedding load, there will be no need to publish a load shedding timetable. In fact, as we speak, we are exporting about 300 megawatts of power outside Ghana to Burkina Faso, to Benin, and to other neighboring countries. And so when you have enough and you are exporting power, obviously there will be no need to publish load shedding timetable. Admittedly, the system is very fragile and very weak, but we've been working around the clock to procure enough fuel and to make some payments to power suppliers in order to hold the system. It's true that Bridge Power, one of the independent power producers, shut their operations because of mounting liabilities that have not been paid over the months.
So are these measures sufficient enough to curtail the bleeding sector, like the minister put it? Let's get more perspective on that as we hear from policy lead conventional energy at ASIP, Kojo Yauche. You joined us via Zoom. Thanks so much, Kojo, for your time on Business Live. How refreshing is it, your thoughts about the raft of measures outlined by the minister to ensure efficient and reliable energy sector?
Thanks for having me. I think the second train of the gas processing plant is long overdue. This was supposed to come, I think, some 2 or 3 years after the first train was brought in 2015. And if you look at how much gas we've been flaring over the period, in 2023 alone, the gas we flared, if we were supposed to commercialize it and use it for power production, that would have earned us some $287 million. So having a processing plant that is able to commercialize this gas instead of flaring it, which goes against our zero flaring policy and also our climate commitments on methane emission and all of these things, is welcome news. It could have come sooner. Now, what is important is where do we get the money for to finance that facility? And we are hopeful that in the upcoming budget next week, there will be some indication on the financing and arrangements for that facility to be done. So it's very important that we get it for our fuel supply, fuel security supply, and also for broader power generation. The second point about we not shedding load. The fact of the matter is that there are certain pockets of communities that are having their lives go off. If the minister insists that we are not shedding load, then the PULC will have to compel ECG to come and explain to consumers what is happening in those localities, that they are not getting power as they should get, because it's something that has been consistent for the past 3 or 4 weeks or so. And we've got all the assurances that there is fuel for power to be produced. The minister has also indicated that we are not shedding load. So someone has to explain what is happening if we are not shedding load.
As we wrap up the conversation, I'm pretty sure you may have listened entirely to the minister's, position on the energy sector. Are you sure these measures, for example, the construction of the second gas processing plant, like you mentioned, etc., can really change the fortunes of the sector? In a minute, if you can do that for me.
Yeah, the gas processing plant, for example, is a much more long-term, medium to long-term strategy on ensuring fuel supply. But the immediate problems, and he has admitted that there are some fragilities within the system. We need to really fix how much debt we are accumulating first. And there are some steps that have been taken. There's a committee that is looking at how to retool it, and among all of those things. So we'll wait and see what proposals they bring out on how to fix the problems within the short to medium term, whilst government also focuses on the medium to long term.
Kojo Yauche, thanks so much for your time speaking to us on Business Live. Finally, before we go, the Chamber of Aquaculture Ghana is lamenting low budgetary allocation to the sector. According to the Chief Executive of the Chamber, the sector, which is actively addressing the gap in fish production, needs an increased support to help reduce importation of fish in the country. More in this report.
The Women in Aquaculture celebration, organized to mark International Women's Day, recognized the vital contributions of women in the aquaculture industry and also provided a platform to discuss the challenges facing the sector, particularly its financial constraints. Speaking to Joy Business at the celebration, Chief Executive of the Chamber of Aquaculture Ghana, the Fajika, expressed disappointment over the current budgetary allocation, highlighting the sector's significant potential in reducing their reliance on fish imports.
The Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture and the Fisheries Commission oversee 3 sectors: the marine, inland, and aquaculture. But if you look at the budgetary allocation for these 3 sectors, a lot is allocated to the marine and the inland sectors, And in the aquaculture sector, only a few resources are allocated to that sector. And if you look at the statistics in terms of fish production for Ghana, Ghana has three main sources of fish: the marine, inland, and aquaculture sectors. The marine and the inland side are depleting very fast, and aquaculture keeps on showing promising signs. The data from there keeps on going up each year, and it appears the sector that is doing very well is receiving less resources. And we think that it's time to increase budget allocation to the aquaculture sector, because if you allocate more resources to that sector, we can actually scale up the production and also increase our contribution to the country's GDP at the moment.
Chief Executive of Crystal Lake Fish Limited, Patricia Safo, emphasized the contribution of women in the sector to general fish output in the country.
Women entrepreneurs have been involved in large-scale aquaculture from its inception over a decade ago. I don't need to mention names, but suffice it to say that until recently, the president of the Ghana Aquaculture Association for many years was a woman. And in small-scale aquaculture, women are involved all over the world. In fact, the bulk of young entrepreneurs entering into aquaculture in the last few years, especially in Greater Accra region, are women.
The Women in Aquaculture celebration was themed Connecting Change Makers, fostering collaboration among women in aquaculture.
Thanks so much for watching Business Life with me, Pius Kojo Baka. Beyond the Numbers is next.